Okay, thanks for everybody jumping on. We've got Facebook going up top here. Sorry, Instagram up top, Facebook down low. Appreciate you guys jumping on. Ultimately, what we want to do is see what we can do to help people get their questions answered. A lot of times, you feel a little bit of pressure or concern if you feel like you got to call a realtor if you want to ask a question, or text us, email us, whatever it is. So we just want to be easily accessible to people. So we think these live weekly Q&As makes it easy. Not a lot of commitment to feel like you have to do stuff.
Have to give us a call or text us or anything.
Dylan knows all about commitment. So yeah, let's get this started. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw those in the comments section. We'd love to get those answered for you regarding anything. I will start though with, I did have a question this week that came in earlier. It wasn't in this format. Obviously, they weren't planning on having this shared here, so I'm not going to reveal the person's name. But I did have somebody ask me this week. We were talking about the recession and how we think a recession is coming. I really honestly think within the next year we're going to have a recession. I think there's just way too many issues with the economy right now, especially with supply. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure everybody's noticed, there's a shortage of everything. You can't buy anything right now. I mean, no matter what you want to buy, you can't buy it. You've got to order it, and then you're 6, 7, 8 months out before you get that thing in to actually be able to have it. So I think that as well as some other things are going to cause a recession. The question that we were discussing though is, how's that going to affect the housing market? And what I find is, because there is still so much demand for housing here in Utah and so many people still wanting to move here, so many people still wanting to buy here, so many people still wanting to build here, that because of the demand, the housing market's going to be okay. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, of course you're going to say that. You're a realtor. Of course you're going to say that. You just want to make people believe and have faith in the market, right? No, I want to just tell people the truth. And I found an interesting statistic after I was having this conversation with this person. I was like, oh man, I want to do some more research, find out more on this. How do I feel about it? How can I educate my clients and my community here? And I found a really, really interesting statistic. We all know that there was a housing market crash in 2008, right? So in 2008, market crashed, dipped big time. Before that, though, if you go back the last 4 recessions, the economic recessions before that, that is the only recession that there was a housing market recession.
Well, that had to do with the housing market and
exactly.
Loan fraud.
Exactly. It was all about loan fraud and housing. So that recession was caused because of housing versus like I said, the 4 before that. Even though there was recessions, housing still climbed.
Yeah.
Housing prices still climbed. So I think there is a recession coming. I do. I think in the next year, recession's coming. However, I think housing prices in Utah, I don't study the whole U.S. a ton. I keep an eye on it, but it's not super important to me, so I just mainly focus here. I think in Utah, we're going to see prices continue to go up. I also think interest rates, though, are going to continue to go up through the recession. And so it is going to get harder to buy a home. And so we've been seeing these crazy numbers, like 23, 24% increase appreciation in the last 12 months. That's not going to happen anymore. So I think that number is going to come back down to a more usual number. I think the recession's actually going to be a good thing for the housing market in that it's going to get us back to a normal market, right? Yeah. 2, they were asking me, well, is it a good time to still invest in real estate? And the short answer on that to me is yes. Because in my mind, let me back up, right? So real estate investing there are some short-term opportunities for real estate investing to make a quick buck, such as flipping. I would not be buying a house to flip right now. Yeah. I wouldn't do that. I still feel like if you are doing that, it's not like it's going to kill you or anything, but I feel like it's risky. I do. I feel like flipping a house right now is risky. So I wouldn't be flipping houses. However, if you're looking at investing in real estate as a long-term financial investment, you're in it for the long run, right? It's not going to be I'm going to sell this thing, make a quick buck in a couple of years, right? You're going to hang on to it for a while. You're You're going to let it appreciate. You're going to let that value go up, and you're going to continue to pay it off. So that way your equity, the equity gap, there's widening. As value goes up and you're paying down the mortgage, you're increasing, right? Exponentially. So looking at that, let's play doomsday here, right? Let's say that a housing market crash does happen, that it totally crashes and wipes out just like 2008, and we just get killed. We absolutely get killed on values, okay? People who bought at the peak of the market, 07, early part of 2008, I was looking over the numbers. When they bought right at the peak of the market, and then that huge dip happened, and it killed a lot of people. I mean, it did. It killed a lot of people. The recovery took 5 years. So by 2013, those people, the value of their home had recovered back to what they purchased it for right at the peak of the market in 07, 08. So I tell every single one of our buyers that's looking at a house, because we get that question a lot, like, well, what if the housing market crashes? What if there's another bubble? What if, right? People immediately think, it's fun. Another side note here. I feel like people are always like 7 steps away from like death, right? They think like, well, if I buy this house now, what if I lose my job? Then what if I can't pay for the house? Then what if I lose this house? Then what if I can't pay for food? And then I die.
Those direct TV commercials.
Yeah, right? So
Be this guy. Buy direct TV.
yeah. So, thinking that way, let's start going down that path. You buy a home at Abs right now. Let's say you close on a house tomorrow. Market crashes 2 days. Right? You're absolutely doomed. We tell our buyers, buy a home with the mindset of, I'm going to live in this home for 5 years. I can see with where I'm at right now, with myself, with my family, with my goals, with my plans, with everything I'm doing, I can see myself living in this home for 5 years. That's not saying you have to live in it for 5 years, but picture it that like, hey, if the market were to crash tomorrow, could I live in this home for 5 years? Could I make the payment for 5 years? Could I be okay in this house for 5 years? And if you can, then I would say go ahead and buy it. Because then worst case scenario, not the most likely case scenario, not the scenario I think is going to happen, but the worst case scenario, market crashes, you've got to live in it for 5 years for prices to recover, and then you can do whatever you want after that. So, that's my thinking, that's my thought process, always has been. So far, everybody if you bought last year or any time before that, you have got tens of thousands of dollars of equity in your house. The other saying I really like, the best time to buy real estate is yesterday. Like, housing prices are going up. They do this, right? And then maybe you have a little bit of this, but then they do this. And then there's some of this, and then they do this. And then some of this, and do this. You talk to your grandparents and stuff. There's a fun game. Go ask your grandparents, go ask your parents what they paid for their house. And it's like, oh, well, that sucks. I wish, and the next thought that's going to come to your mind is, I wish I could have bought a house then. So are you going to be buying a house now so that your posterity in the future is like, oh man, I can't believe you were able to buy a house for that much? Yeah, that actually brings up an interesting point. I read an article on KSL. I think it was yesterday. I read it. We're over 50%. I can't remember if it was like 53, 54, something like that. We're over 50% of Utahns cannot afford the average home, or like not just buying but renting as well. Like over 50% of people can't afford to buy or rent in Utah, which is crazy. Like that, it's a big issue that I think a lot of legislation is going to start being put in place. That's going to kind of help the state and help the people here overcome that. But great question though, as far as like what can you do to prepare now? We can make this as complex as you want, but ultimately I feel like it's easier if we just kind of keep everything super simple, right? And so it's probably the answers that you've already even thought of or that you've been told before. Number one, keep your credit score good. Make sure you're paying your bills on time. Make sure you're not maxing out those credit cards and having late payments, having delinquencies, stuff like that, right? Getting a credit card is okay, and it's honestly probably a good thing to help you build your credit, but you've got to make sure you're paying it on time and then just pay it off every month so you're not messing with that interest. You don't have that interest accruing. So that's one, credit score. If you have more questions about credit score, let us know. We can dive in, into your personal credit and give you some advice on your credit and what you need to do. Credit score is one, so you got to build that credit score. If you can get that credit score over 720, then you're going to get the prime rate, right? You're going to get the best possible interest rate out there for a mortgage. Second thing, save up for a down payment. Now, you don't have to have a down payment to buy in Utah. We've got grant programs, we've got like second mortgage options. Like, there are options to get into a house without a down payment. However, if you can afford the down payment, if you can do that, you're going to be better off in the long run. That being said, if the down payment's the only thing that's keeping you from buying a house, that's a mistake. Like, I would get into the house so you can start building equity rather than throwing your money away renting. But if you're going to school right now, then I would just be like, hey, every penny you can save it, stash it away, have it for a down payment. And then that way, even if you don't end up using the money for a down payment, now you're moving into your house with a decent amount of reserves. Yeah, I was going to say, we've got a seller right now that was promised this, that, and the other from a solar company that it would increase their home value. They were told $40,000 because the solar system was going to cost like $30,000, right? Not true. If you get, I'm pro solar. I'm looking into getting solar panels on my own house. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. However, I would not put that on my house unless I knew I was going to be at that house for a long time to see the benefits and have it pay off.
10 years, right?
Yeah. If I wasn't going to live in that house for 10 years, no way I would be putting solar panels on that house.
Yeah, first-time home buyers
Don't put solar panels on your house.
Unless it's your first and final home.
Yeah.
I'll put solar panels.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good question. As far as things you can do, things that are really smart, if you can somehow increase the bedroom count or the bathroom count, making overall the square footage bigger, the livable square footage bigger, that's really nice. Updates and stuff are going to get you a little bit more. However, I found like repainting, new kitchen, this, that, and the other, you get a little bit more than what you spent. But the question is with how much more you spent, like, was it also worth your time? Right now, I definitely wouldn't be making a ton of upgrades. That brings up a good point, though. If I had to go back and do it all over again, buying a home, the first home I bought, as well as any other home, to be honest, I would try and find homes that I could buy with an unfinished basement. And then I would go in and I would finish the basement, and that would bring up my value a ton, and then I'd live in it for 3 to 5 years, and then I'd sell it and go find another one. Finish the basement, 3 to 5 years, sell it. That's what I would do. I think that's a good way to go to build some equity.
And even if you don't need the basement, you rent out the basement.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay. Well, yeah, we appreciate you guys jumping on. Those of you who jumped on, Brianne, thanks, Caden, Julio, everybody. Like I said, every week, doing this every week, every Wednesday at noon. So make sure you jump on. If you can think of any questions, feel free to send them. If not, we'll bring the questions that we've had throughout the week and discuss those. But we're always happy and looking for some engagement, interaction here to be able to, talk to you guys and be a little bit more social on this platform. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.